Good evening. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the coffee shop. We can't think of any more clever name, but it's just the coffee shop. So I hope you'll find a comfortable place to sit, get something yummy to eat and drink. In about 2 minutes, I'm going to start with reading some poetry. So get your yummies and your drink and find a comfy spot. There are some pillows if anybody wants to be on the ground.
Slows down a little bit. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Good to see you.
Kathy, good to see you.
I'm sorry, did somebody want to see the scores?
All right. Good evening, everybody. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome, everybody. Can everybody hear me okay? And I want to welcome folks that are joining us online as well. We're glad you're here. So please say hello in the chat so we know you're here. So I hope you like poetry because we're going to have a lot of it tonight. I'm very grateful to have Elizabeth McCorvey here to give us 2 beautiful musical interludes, which will be beautiful. So don't panic, but I just want you to know that I wrote over 100 poems during my sabbatical. I'm not using them all tonight, don't worry. But I divided them into 3 kind of categories. And one is nature, because that was such a huge part of my sabbatical, was just being outside. I probably spent like 85% of my sabbatical outside. I slept outside sometimes. I just was outside most of the time. So my first several poems are about nature. Then another category I'm calling church work. And those are going to be a little tender, and I'll talk a little bit about those before I read them. And I thought about not sharing those with you, and if you don't like them, you can blame John Mount Shoup, because he told me that I should do it. He encouraged me. And then the third category I'm calling trauma and time travel. And this sabbatical was very beautiful. It was also very intense. And it was a deeply healing time, but it was hard won. So there are going to be just a few. I'm not doing very many of those, but there are a few poems in that category. So we'll do some nature poems, and then Elizabeth will have a song. And then we'll do some church work and trauma poems. And then Elizabeth will do a song. And then I'm going to close with 2 poems about nighttime. Help you go sleepy sleep when you go home. All right. Let me find my glasses. I want you to feel free to take care of yourself. Get up and move around. It's not going to bother me. If you throw things at me, it might bother me, but you moving around doesn't bother me. So feel free to take care of yourself. This first poem is called Pancake Breakfast. And one of the things I really sunk into in my sabbatical was just being present in the moment. 3 roundish paleo pancakes, curated to a lightly tanned, soothed in oat milk butter, drizzled in dark mountain honey, joined with dazzling berries, rasp, black, straw, and blue. Delight needs a moment, a blessing, a pause, sacred and savored, colors, scents, anticipation, taste a portal to sweet moments. Honey on biscuits, on toast, on a peanut butter sandwich. Early morning skillets, bathrobes and slippers, dim light on in the kitchen. Ganny shuffles from icebox to toaster to drawer full of silver. The next one is called Morning. And this is our farm. We call our farm Blue Moon Farm, because once in a blue moon you have something that just makes you so happy. And this place makes us very happy. Morning. A single moment is not a morning, but an elegant emergence over and into the coupling of shadow and song. Moon luminescent, darkness ethereal, glow soaking rolling pasture. Great horned owl mellow, echo caressing, dripping forest. Air moist, cool, subtle, steps over and around pillows of mist levitate, hover in mountain crook. Robin redbreast speaks into the still. One reprise settles over quiet. Lowing cows call the herd to move again. A day finds here, morning's wholly becoming. The chorus is not the first to announce a crescendo builds as light unfolds over the edge of dwelling again. So mornings were just holy times for me. I would wake up about 3:34 in the morning and just go outside. And I would sit on my front porch and just sit and just listen and just soak it in. Often my 2 cats would be out there sitting too. I think they were like, why are we doing this every day for 3 months? But okay. It was such a holy time. And so much happens in those wee hours of the morning. The owls calling to each other, the coyotes moving through, bears sometimes, possums, raccoons, the horses waking up. I'd hear them wake up down at the barn. The first bird to sing. The stars. I saw so many shooting, falling stars. I can't even count them. It was a holy time. And sometimes I would be up for a couple of hours just sitting, listening. It was prayer for me. And around 6 o'clock, I would get really sleepy. So I would fall asleep on the porch and then wake up when the sun came up. This one day that this next poem is about was a day when there was no sunrise. And so I slept for a really long time. And I kind of was almost in a stupor when I woke up. This is called A Day with No Sunrise. Thick, damp air hovers heavy, night soaked, holding on. Dark suggests stillness, frank confrontation with forest pantheon. Raindrops mimic footsteps or pause tread as water drips, subtle antiphon. Atmosphere close enough to clothe me, sticky with habitat dwelling in and upon. Coating dawn's brilliance in vapory blankets of time drowning in first light foregone. Would you all like for me to read that one again? Okay. Thick, damp air hovers heavy, night soaked, holding on. Dark suggests stillness, frank confrontation with forest pantheon. Raindrops mimic footsteps or pause tread as water drips, subtle antiphon. Atmosphere close enough to clothe me, sticky with habitat dwelling in and upon. Coating dawn's brilliance in vapory blankets of time drowning in first light foregone. Thank you. This is like really hard to share these. So thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Whew. This next one is called Trying Again. And on this one, I just invite you to listen. Let's have a little give and take after this one. It can be about anything you've heard, but especially this one. Just listen for words or phrases or feelings or images. Trying again. Gentle, gentle, says this morning. The softest blue light eases over the horizon. Clouds like ether, cottony light float toward the day's dawning, as if they know the harrowing last hours of night, as if they know sentience needs slowness, no sudden movements, no brash sunburst, no explosion of sound, but ever so tenderly tell us another day begins, and sings a soft melody of try again. Would y'all like for me to read that one again? It's a short one. Let's read that one again, and then let's see where it lands for you. Gentle, gentle, says this morning. The softest blue light eases over the horizon. Clouds like ether, cottony light float toward the day's dawning, as if they know the harrowing last hours of night, as if they know sentience needs slowness, no sudden movements, no brash sunburst, no explosion of sound. But ever so tenderly tell us another day begins, and sings a soft melody of try again. So words or phrases, anything, if you have something to say, I'd love for you to come get the mic so folks at home can hear you. Liz, do you want to come grab the mic? Or how about Natalie? Thank you.
Ever so softly, try again. That, yes, those words.
I'm going to ask a question. And you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but because it's going to put you in a vulnerable state. But it brings up a lot of emotion for you. And can you share with us a little bit? You said this is really hard for you. Would you mind sharing a little bit with us why this is so hard?
Thank you for the question, Patty. I don't know how much I can say about it. It's hard for me because this is really intimate. I feel a lot of emotion coming up. It was such a tender time. Some of this will come out as we get through more poems, but I was really burned out when my sabbatical started. And I didn't know that until my sabbatical started. And then I was like, oh, this is what it feels like to be burned out. I can't do anything. I can't talk to people. I can't go anywhere. I just want to sit on this porch and cry. I did a lot of crying. There was a lot of grief that needed to process that, again, we'll get into some of that. And I think for me, Patty, the thing I want to say, and then I'll stop and let other things emerge, was just how much I missed the world, nature, animals, sounds, just being in my body, in the natural world. This job is so intense. It's so much, just constantly, there's never enough time, there's never enough energy, and it takes a lot away. There's a toll that it takes on me. Maybe other people do it and it doesn't. But, and I know, Patty, you, you know. But I think I realized how I had just really abandoned myself. Yeah. So it was like coming back home, and there was some sadness about that, but also great gratitude. Felt like just food for my soul, just being there, being in that space and being able to feel what I felt. Just feel your feelings is what my therapist said. We worked together once a week, sometimes twice a week during my sabbatical, which was also a wonderful thing. And she was like, just let the feelings be. And a lot of my poetry is that, just letting the feelings be. So that's probably all I can muster right now. Thank you for asking. Does anybody else have a word or phrase or?
I just wanted to respond specifically to the poem. Which I have a front porch that's screened in and faces east. And I have a similar experience. And the poem for me is you can't rush sunrise. And you sit and you think it's coming. And sometimes it's got a cloud there. But it comes gently. I really visualize that in your poem.
Thank you. It's nice to feel heard and understood.
It's interesting because my son, they built a front porch on their house. And that's his wonderful spot to just sit, especially after dinner. And early morning, he has to go off to work, so he really doesn't have time. But in the evening, he said lots of times in the summertime, he just kind of went to sleep out there. Yeah. Because it's funny, because he is the most sensitive of my 3 children. Mm-hmm. He's the middle son, and I don't think he would claim sensitivity, but Mama knows. But Mama knows. Yeah, Mama knows. Mama knows. So, yeah. I was thinking, the one word I was thinking about was harrowing. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes that's very much the case. Yeah. At the end of the, kind of before waking up, the feeling of just feeling kind of. Yeah.
Thank you, Francis. I see Libby.
The phrase that caught me was no sudden movements, because that resonates with me a lot. But what I really wanted to say is, through these 3 poems that you've already shared, 4, I think, you are seen, you are heard, you are valued, and you are loved. And let me know if it feels supportive if I acknowledge you with snaps when you're done, because I want you to know how much I appreciate what you're sharing.
Yes, thank you, Libby. I do love the snaps. So did anybody else here? Anybody else grow up with a sleeping porch or have heard of that term, sleeping porch? So, old houses would have sleeping porches on it. And we, for a little while, lived in an old house owned by the college where my dad worked, and it was screened in and you could lock it. I slept out there a lot as a kid, and I did not remember that. Literally, I had forgotten it until this summer. So, all right, now these next 3 are stories. They're about things that happened. And this first one is about a horse dying, and it's not one of my horses. It was a horse of one of our neighbors, and I'm the one that saw him, that he was down, and I could tell. He was an old horse, and sometimes he'd be down when I drove by. But I know horses, and I knew it was the end. And so I got in touch with the owner, and I said, I think your horse is dying. And he said, I'll be right over. And it was the end. And this horse, okay, if you don't know horses are herd animals. They don't like to be by themselves. They get very either anxious and crazy when they're by themselves, or they just kind of shut down. This horse had been by himself for a while, and it tugged at my heartstrings so much that this summer I was thinking about asking him, could your horse just come on over and be with my horses? Like we have room. But I didn't do it, and my dear sweet husband didn't want another horse, and I don't blame him. And the horse was old and not well. And the way this horse dealt with being alone was just kind of shut down. So that's part of what makes these last minutes that I spent with this horse so poignant. This is called White Horse. And by the way, I grew up with a white horse. My horse growing up was white, and her name was Silver. But this is an old white horse. I saw you dying, flat out, sideways, shallow pants. You were cradled in green pasture, soft ground in the morning loam. As if you knew I was close, calling for help, you mustered your head up, neck bowing, nose to the ground. 37 years for a horse is a long life. Skeleton protrudes, teeth recede. You have been on my mind for months. Your solitary life tugs heartstrings. Horses are not meant to be alone, standing, grazing, watching the day away. All right. These two, I actually made handouts because they're a little bit more narrative poems and they're a little bit longer. And I thought it might support you to be able to read these. So if somebody wants to pass out over here. And Margaret and Malachi can do this. Okay. So, how many of you have been closely acquainted with hornets' nests? Anybody come up close to a hornet's nest? They're nothing to be toyed with. They're scary looking. They are dangerous. Yes. Well, a hornet decided to build a nest in one of our tack rooms. And it was a pretty big one. There she blows right there. She was a big one. So John was in Germany, and I was trying to, and I really can't kill bugs. I take them outside. But these hornets were dangerous. These hornets, they could have hurt my kids, my horses, my dogs, you know. They could have killed me, you know. So I felt like I needed to do something. And so I got the poison and I just started contemplating what I was going to need to do. So this is Hornet's Nest. I started to work around the hornet's nest. A wide berth, watchful eye repositioning space, place. One night I went in, poison ready. Instead I watched one lone hornet moving steady over her world. Quietly inside, the swarm rested, nested between ropes. Some lookout scoped this tucked-in place and called it worth risking. They spun their paper universe, white-gray swirls listing, moving in and out, sentries and scouts, building thin, layered time. The hum of their common life chastens mine. How can I destroy a careful dome, and as it should be home? Each morning there are more clearly daring the fates, growing bold, protecting, directing, drawing their stinging blades, awakening me to the murderous task, waiting at dusk. My heart will break to witness even one lifeless husk. I will fear the swarm even then and cherish their miracle until the end. Feel free, anybody have anything about this one? This one, really, this one means a lot to me. This one was so important. And by the way, I never killed the hornets. I did not do it. And strangely, one day, about 4 weeks later, they were all gone. They weren't dead. You know, when they die, they're all around. They were just gone. And I looked up on the internet and stuff. I couldn't find anything about why hornets would just be gone. Yeah. So. No, it wasn't cold yet. The temperature didn't dip. So maybe they knew that something's got to give. I don't know. All right.
I don't really relate to this because I don't like killing bugs either.
I just want people at home to hear.
I'm not a bug killer either. I really go around that. And I could visualize this whole thing happening, this giving them this wide berth. And here they are getting vicious.
What that brings to mind for me is an interview that Bill Moyers, the wonderful television journalist who was a Baptist preacher, and don't you dare make assumptions about Baptists around me. I have my Baptists, they're wonderful. And he was interviewing the Dalai Lama up at Middlebury College for an eco-spirituality interfaith conference. And as they were talking outside, and as Bill Moyers was asking a question to the Dalai Lama, a mosquito landed on his cheek and he went, "Oh, I bet you don't do that." And the Dalai Lama giggled, as he had this amazing way of giggling, and he goes, "First, I let it take a little blood. Then I go, and then if it persists, I go." And then he giggled. And that's what your poem reminds me of. You and the Dalai Lama.
So I see at the part where you're getting ready to do this big task that seems so unnatural to you to begin with. And then knowing how you move and the way that you do the world or humaning, I can see you also just walking there and be like, let me see what this is about. And that exploration and that amazement of everything that was happening. And I'm allergic to all the things, right? So just as you were reading it, being able to relate to it at a deeper level of that love or that curiosity or that peace, that is just so, let me just see what happens. Let me see what's going on. And then for it to have just disappeared just says so much.
Yes.
The endings of these poems are so full of light for me. I just had to say that, like the ending of this and the last one where I said what hit me. So thank you.
When I was growing up, hornets decided to build a nest on the outside of our bathroom window. And they were in a place where outside we went by frequently, but the consensus was they are so interesting to watch. And because it was against the window, you could see all the layers in the inside of the nest. And so we left them there and watched them, and it was just fascinating until they left in the wintertime.
Right. Wow. Front row seat, and it's protected through the glass. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I was just really touched by, especially your story at the end, that they just left on their own. And I just think this poem and the energies and the prayers and the kindness that you showed, and I was really touched by growing bold, protecting, directing. Wow. You honored them. You honored them.
And I guess they honored me. You know, they left. Yeah. So this next one, raise your hand if you were in the Revelation class. There's several of you that were. Barb, you were there for that one. You were there. So this poem was used at the Revelation class. This is the death by drowning. Today at 10:06 a.m. I found him, belly up, only a little bloated, water his deep, dark grave. Turn the bucket over, talk gently. How long have you been in here, friend? Turn him over, his final rest decomposing leaves, poison ivy canopy sets off the blue. The day before he died, the Supreme Court ruled people like me unprotected corpses, inseminated uteri, wards of the state. Crouched over death, I honor the smallest slippery life, birthing with knees cradling the slender canal 2 lives traversed. I admire tiny details, the little toes, slender, perfect nose, a body made to skim the edges of creation. Death came on the rounded razor's edge, a thirst, a hunger, lured into darkness, footing taken away. That day I found him, sunken, still. Everything about me wished he would live, finding his way around the bucket's lip. Sipping just enough, not slipping, but moving on to another crevice, crumbling, teeming with food for thousands more. Life deserves honor, beauty, more pausing, gauzy gentleness draping, softening the gaping, marking the vigor, swaddling the marrow, the skeleton, the sorrow. Synapses now fallow, easing, cycles ceasing, no more seizing. The day life begins and ends, there is brash quiet. When my country draws his dagger and holds it to my neck, I drop down resisting, persisting in fullness of finitude, ruthless, perilous cruelty drowning us all. So I will sit with this tiny family longer, me and the blue-tailed skink in the shade, blood still on the blade of a dangerous world. Thank you all. And I want to invite Elizabeth to come on up and sing us a song.
Marcia sent me her poems in advance, so I tried to pick out some songs that would match. Luckily, I write about nature a lot. See if there's anything I want to say about this one. It sounds like it could be about a person, but it's not necessarily. And almost none of my songs have titles, so if you think of a title, please let me know. When it rains, even though the sky is clear, clear blue, bringing water to the mountains like the way you used to do, and the drought that calls to the valley, oh yes, you brought that too, and a morning what moved on so that I can start anew. Mm. Trying to be grateful for the paths that I don't choose. Losing means growing, but parts of me refuse. Remembering December for the things that move in June, but 1,000 little deaths bring springtime and the blues. When I pause among the trees like I'm the one with roots, snapping off old branches that I can no longer use. Lover, winter, making sure I pay my dues, and I'm dying for a season without you. Cup every seed in my hands and tell them that they'll bloom. A necessary lie I'll overuse. Remembering December for the things that move in June, 'cause 1,000 little deaths bring springtime and the blues. The ones that lay sleeping won't be found. Every place we step is hallowed ground. The silence keeps us singing even though they don't make a sound. But I won't fear going dormant this time around. So to the earth I go, 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 to the earth I go.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. You truly are amazing. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Let's give her another round of applause. So beautiful. Okay, are you all ready for some church work ones? I'm telling you, it's very vulnerable to share these with you, and I hope you won't take them personally. This job is a hard job sometimes, and sometimes there can be tough people to deal with. Present company excluded, and I mean it. But church work is hard, and again, I was feeling pretty burned out. I want you to remember that I'm the 4th generation in my family ordained to the ministry in the Presbyterian Church. And I felt my grandfather and my great-grandfather close a few times on the porch. And my great-grandfather, who I never knew, he was born in Princeton, Kentucky, and did most of his ministry in Kentucky, but as a middle school or high school boy was saying, I'm going to the ministry. He got really sick as a boy and died. The doctor came to the house and put the sheet over his head. And his mother, my great-great-grandmother, said, "He's not dead. He's going to be a Presbyterian minister." And he was not dead. During high school, he got on horseback and went into the Appalachian Mountains in Kentucky to baptize people. He was very, very committed, very faithful, but also had a great sense of humor, I hear. But at some point in his career, about the time that his only daughter, my grandmother, left home, he had a nervous breakdown. Nervous breakdown, whatever that is. And I thought about him a lot this summer. I wonder what that was. One of the questions I asked him a few times when he was close, I was just, were people being jerks or what? Like, what was it? Like, were people being hard? Is that what made you have a nervous breakdown? So anyway, this poem is called The Family Business. Generational know-how coursing through my imagination about who I should be in the world. Work comes easy, so easy it can seem like it suits me, like armor protecting me against overstepping or undue exposure to shame or impropriety. It seems harmless enough following in the footsteps of fathers, even groundbreaking to be the first woman. But why do I want to step into these indentations, left by men seeking after respectability and virtue in a culture that I don't respect or believe to be virtuous? I tried to craft the whole story in a flourish of providence and purpose. The day-to-day pressure and dread don't know where they fit in the portrait of call and gratitude and God. Soon I will get in my car and re-engage with the family business. I will shore myself up and cover myself in protection and brace myself for impact. I will put on the performance of lifetimes and decades and centuries. I will feel things and not have time or space to metabolize them. I will wince at the pricks and pokes and jolts and shocks to my system. I will smile instead of scream. I will listen intently instead of leave the room. I have tools, skills, recipes for survival. Disassociation, learned young, practiced often, an old friend who looks out for me and whisks me away when I have nowhere else to go. Deep breaths so I can remember a bigger world and breathe in space between me and the pain. Self-containment, separating from the pack, being out in front or facilitating or leading. The outskirts, the margins, the boundaries suit me better than the center. The family business is hazardous to my health. Too much, too many, too few, too long. A working relationship with cruelty, betrayal, and dissembling can be draining. And constant infusions of not being able to trust your surroundings changes a person. I don't want to go back to church. I have to. I will. And all the epigenetics will kick into gear, and I will settle back into the tumult and the taxing, vexing, flexing that I have to do. And I will try to hold on to myself when no one else cares. Whew. Yeah, it's intense. Thank you, Barb. That's a good word.
Can you just pause and take a breath?
Yeah.
Take a deep breath in.
Can I be honest about how I'm feeling right now? I don't want to hurt you. I hope it didn't hurt to hear any of that. Because I love you. Hope you know that. Well, we all hurt each other, don't we? This next one's called Ready, Set, Work. Are you ready? This one I'm going to read through twice. It's a fast one. You got to read it fast or it doesn't work. Ready, set, work. Say something, do something, be useful, be likable, be real but not too real, be caring but also be careful, be confident but humble, be bold but not threatening, be honest but palatable, loving, be prepared but be responsive, be professional, personable, compassionate, boundaried, responsible, encouraging, guarded, wise, curious, decisive, stay present but protect yourself. Pay attention but don't hold on too tightly. Trust but be wary. Have an open heart, but remember not to take things personally. Be supportive, but don't need much of anything. Y'all ready for that again? Ready, set, work. Say something, do something, be useful, be likable, be real but not too real, be caring but also be careful, be confident but humble, be bold but non-threatening, be honest but palatable, loving, be prepared but be responsive, be professional, personable, compassionate, boundaried, responsible, encouraging, guarded, wise, curious, decisive, stay present but protect yourself. Pay attention but don't hold on too tightly. Trust but be wary. Have an open heart, but remember not to take things personally. Be supportive, but don't need much of anything.
That's it. You said it.
Yeah. Probably a lot of you all feel that way in your workplaces or just the world. And finally, the third and final poem about church work is called Church Steeped. A child of the church, my species. Presbyterian, my genus. The Genesis precedes my birth. Threads of genealogy, DNA sequencing, frequent infusions. Goodness and God, givenness, beginning, mattering most. Pieces felt true, fitting, settling into intuitions of something more. Accompaniment, mercies, miracles, life's meandering unfolding. Stars and orb spiders, black holes and infinite oceans, seeping elegance beyond small stories and flawed tradition. Words' awkward pathways for existential waves of wonder, waned longing for walled sanctuaries, sermon, scripture, song, and glad tidings, for grandiose visions of what the world could be. Sacred yearning seeks and finds forest canopies cathedral, the genius of avian canticle, mythologies in moss and mycelia, mercies in an owl's ghostly prayers. Hummingbird's tiny buzz is life, delight, praise, a miracle of physics and physiology. She pastors me and proclaims the mysterious meaning of me, here, now. And those are the 3 church work poems.
Thank you.
Thank you. If anybody feels like you want to say something, I'm open, but I don't know how much more I can say, but I'm willing if anybody wants to. Thank you, Margaret.
I wanted to say something about the second poem, and I heard the paradox between be, and with nothing left, and the paradox of that, because you come to this work with as a person, and we need you to have your being fed. It reminded me of teaching too. I mean, or any profession where you're just expected to be everything, and it's just not possible. But thank you. I really enjoyed that poem.
Thank you, Margaret. I'm sure a lot of people can relate in different professions. Just what I noticed on my sabbatical is when my body was able to just be, I didn't do a whole lot in the day. And I would think back to my days like, oh my gosh, I did one thing today that involved people and I'm done. And back at church, I would do 15. I would have like 7 meetings, you know, or like how did I do that? How did I? It's so activating to kind of always be. But that's so much our culture, isn't it? Thank you, Amy Kim. I thought you might want to comment.
I'll just say how, I mean, it's humbling and I'm thankful for the window into what it feels like to be on this side of ministry and the gift that you're giving the congregation by being truthful about it. Showing up is what we'll keep doing, but there still is a cost. And it doesn't mean we don't want to. Because we do, but it's there. So,
thank you, Amy Kim. Okay.
Just a very short story. Okay, yeah, okay, yeah. In one of the churches we went to, it was a fairly young church, and I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but the pastor there needed to have a time to recover. He was not given that choice and kept on for a little while, and then he left. And he explained to people why he left. I don't know if he ever explained, but it was pretty obvious. You need to have, you know, and I think the congregation understood finally that this is not something that you just do as kind of a everyday job. Right. It's a way of life, and you have to have that time to slow down and reflect. Yeah. And I think he was very wise to leave.
Okay. I was just going to say, but during COVID, a lot of pastors dropped. Like, they just couldn't do it anymore. And one pastor, I listened to a podcast about him, and he has started a retreat center for burnout pastors. I've shared that with Richard, in Puerto Rico. And really, he kept resisting what his body was telling him, that he needed to rest, And finally, he just couldn't get out of bed one day, and he couldn't stop shaking. Like, his body was just like, we're not doing this anymore. Like, you're done. And it was the COVID and the Trump election and all the things that just made things so much more intense. And he says that the sea of pastors coming through that retreat center is just unending. So many people.
I'll be fast. The 4th commandment, remember the Sabbath. Yeah. Keep it holy. And the Jewish practice of Sabbath keeping has people sort of who don't quite get it might think, oh, those silly rules. Here's the basic idea of the Jewish notion of practicing the Sabbath. You're not supposed to do the work that you do the other 6 days. Tailors aren't supposed to be sewing. Musicians don't do music. Preachers don't preach. a Sabbath is for recreation. And we're so glad, I mean, it took 6 years, but you got a Sabbath.
And it was beautiful.
Yeah.
And I do want you all to know, I do have a day off every week, and some of you know it, because I claim it. It's Mondays, and I don't do stuff on Mondays. Except for we're doing a funeral next Monday, or the next Monday.
Marsha, I'm just holding the last part of the poem after all the fast, 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 do, be, and then, and don't expect much for yourself. Or like, when is it your turn? Or who gets to do that part? That it's like you give to all of us. I mean, so much all the time. And like, who holds you back? Who holds you during all of it? And so I just hope that we're all holding that, because that's intense.
Thank you. And I think it's important to remember, it's like Amy Kim said, it's both and. It's like there is this love, this beautiful love that I receive from this community. So much. It's a miracle to me in many ways. And I think that the intensity of that is why when it's hard, it's really hard, you know, and you're working so hard at something. I'm just so grateful for all the support and love, and that I was able to do this sabbatical. It saved me. It really did. All right, y'all, we're going to trauma and time travel. So, I grew up in Danville, Kentucky. One of the things I started doing again about a year ago was I started running again. I started running competitively when I was 9 years old. And the team that I was on in Kentucky is still the winningest women's high school running program in the state ever, the most winningest. We were just put in the Hall of Fame, and you know, it was an amazing experience, and my coach is amazing, still living. He's like another dad. My college coach died about a year ago, and so I decided I'm going to start running again, and I did, and I ran in some races over my sabbatical. That was that was the only travel that I did, was going to 3 races, and 2 of them were in my hometown in Danville, Kentucky. One of them was in honor of my coach that's still living, and it was on the cross-country coach in Kentucky, which is the hardest course in the state of Kentucky, which is saying a lot because Kentucky has mountains and stuff. It's hard. It almost killed me. And I told my coach after I'm done, I'm never, ever running on this course again. This is it for me. And then the other race was in memory of my college coach. And I was so grateful to be able to go back and do those things. But being back in my little town has never been easy for me because it was not a safe place for me. And there's just so much there. My parents are no longer there. I don't have family there anymore. This was really strange going back there with no family. So anyway, this is called Danville, Kentucky. Centrifuge of my world, my beginnings in this world, a small town with big impact. Viscera settle in like air, a dermis, an envelope of where I came from. Landscapes and sound maps, the feel of a bend in the road. Clouds speaking in hushed voices of hidden things, shrouded moments and mementos of everything that life was. Here now with more to me than meets the eyes of those who knew me when, a stranger in these parts now. One who got out and who may or may not have forgotten how it all was back then. Ghosts of those days meander along the places I knew. They appear and vanish, and I can only feel a brush, a wisp of remembering. Even now, I can feel where it stops and starts above my gut, below my heart, held there for safekeeping, averting snares from portals back in time, forgetting the things I must remember. This next one is called PTSD. So I have chronic PTSD. That is something that I know some of you knew about me, but now all of you know I have chronic PTSD. It definitely gets triggered sometimes in this work, but also just in the world. And I had an episode this summer where I was very triggered. This is called PTSD. Mind racing, stomach turning, churning, chest burning, something is not okay. Brewing, chewing, stewing with it all, the disequilibrium, the dread, thoughts darting, dipping in my head. What will he do with the softest parts of me, with the moments of truth, with the powers that be? I've exposed more than I ever thought I could, I would say. Foreboding, imploding, my body feels pulled, pushed, unlulled, undulled. Fully activated, systems on watch, anticipate problems before they arise, head off explosions, avert your eyes, forget your needs, follow his leads. Your needs won't, don't, can't protect you. Surviving may be the best I can do right now. Stay with your feelings. Do I even know how? This is the hardest one. I've gone back and forth about sharing it with you, but so much of my journey as a survivor, I've realized it's really where my faith was born. Seeing how God can take something so horrible and bring connection. And I know many of you in the room are survivors of many different kinds of trauma. This is called becoming untouchable. Becoming untouchable takes time. Start young. Instill quiet oppression. Reinforce the stakes. Ignore the quakes, the terror. Regular injections of shame. Frequent threats by name. Don't forget to eat the blame. Violence, brazen and hushed, forceful when pushed. Manipulate naked truth, expectations diluted and grief stifled, rifled and mocked. Trust no one, especially not yourself. Softer cruelty installs the final layer, the hardening, the withering, the lost prayer. A tiny opening enough to penetrate beyond epidermis into organs, blood, arteries, hormone motherboards, tissues blanched, unquenched, untouched. Consent is ridiculous banter, powerless. Less meaning, more screening, scanning any gestating desire for danger, for flags red, wet with blood memory, and muscles expert at locking, clenching, shutting down, all the way down to the faintest hunger for another, an artifact of a body unbloomed, unfound, left bound to choiceless imperatives and voiceless narratives of being a stranger to all. That's a lot. This is called time. The passage of time, such grief, the only vortex we can inhabit. The past whispering always wistfully, remember me, remember the feeling of me. Snapshots, tiny portals, never all or enough. Sparks to recognize, only fleeting brushes of yes. Bare feet on grass, summertime skin, holy dusk falling on family at home. Kitchen sounds and the taste of familiar. The view from tree branches, discoveries beautiful, withering. Memories fond, lost, mournful moments cherished. Fragments, precious pieces of life, moving on. And this is one more from the time travel before Elizabeth will sing to us again. And this is called Today Will Be the Day That I Die. And this, I had many, many dreams during my sabbatical, many big dreams that I wrote down and worked with some folks, and there were a lot going on in my dreams. I had one dream that was truly fascinating, and I worked it with a group that I'm in. And the dream ended with me in this big kitchen with all my sisters and my father, and there was a lot of other things going on, but the dream ended with me saying out loud, "Today will be the day that I die." And so this is a poem called Today Will Be the Day That I Die, and I woke up right when I said that in the dream. Today will be the day that I die, I say to myself as my dream ends, and I wake up foggy, startled awake by this strange pronouncement. My mind immediately sorts, parses it out. Is this how it works for people? Do they know their day of death? Do they write it off as a thought not worth tending? This can't be the day I die, I tell myself. I'm healthy. I'm not in danger. I'm not going on a plane or even in a car or going any distance. But death can still come, like a chance encounter, like an animal darting into the road. Nothing expected, but still utterly ordinary. A car accident on Highway 74, a random shooting at a business, an act of violence by a neighbor with guns, a heart attack, a stroke, an accident at home, a nap that goes deeper than sleep and I never wake up. I can't discount the possibility that this could be the day. What if it is? What would I do? If death announces itself this way, we never know because no one lives to tell about it. So first off, I will pay attention, write it down, wonder about it, consider the possibility, record for posterity, live fully, pay attention more. I imagine my day could go a few ways. Trying to avoid death is one. Embracing a day of life is another. Neither will necessarily change the course, but I know I want to savor and not cower. Bravery more beautiful than hiding away from what life is. Magnificent, mundane, meandering, and mournful. Maybe today I will celebrate every moment the way a last first day should be.
I think it was really interesting that you put that poem and then put this song right after it, because I wasn't sure if I was going to do this song. Well, you'll think about it what you think about it, but it's also about death. And I've only played this song one other time. It's about how I hope I will feel and how I hope other people will feel if I'm ever killed at the hands of white supremacy or police violence. And but it's also joyful in a way because I don't know if all black families do this. My black family does this. And funerals we call homecomings. So this is about a homecoming. I'm coming home. It's clear that I've overstayed my welcome. I'm coming home. I'm coming home. I'm missing my soul, the soul that they stole from me 400 years ago. Let me be known. Let me be known. So lay my body by the riverside. Call to me, come back to life. I'll be lost to the church in the middle passage, free at last on stranger tides. Where will you go when all of the riots are quiet and the air is filled with smoke? When the truth bears its throat, will you let your voice grow? Let the fire never cease. Where there's no justice, let there be no peace, no peace. Let there be no peace. And lay my body by the riverside. Call to me, come back to life.
Thank you, Elizabeth. So grateful. All right. It's time to go nighty-night. 2 more poems, or actually, yeah, three poems. They're not too long. So imagine yourself. You don't have to imagine it's night. But see if you can imagine a summertime night. This first poem of our closing 3 is called Synchronous Lightning Bugs. Synchronous lightning bugs float over pasture, luminescent quest for a bright future. Hounds bellow over the mountain unknown to my eyes, familiar ambient evening voices. Cricket stretches across the porch, surveying and absorbing vibrations and nighttime cat strategies. Mosquitoes pester intermittently. Periodic high buzzes tell me the meal plan, bites, blood, the tattoo of southern summers. A breeze so gentle it feels intentional, sustained and growing, moving over the birthing good night. These next 2 you all have actually heard if you came to church the first Sunday I was back from my sabbatical. I shared these 2 in my sermon. This is called Cicadas at Night. The cicadas at night blanket me in home. Their song is my song, the memory, the now, the being here. Windows open in summertime Mississippi. Cots made for my sister and me. The lullaby of the cicadas brought me to sleep in a place full of things I should know, but never would. June, July nights in Kentucky, tired feet clean, welcoming sheets at ease in belonging. Summers at sunset, babies washed, tucked in, ethereal big sky beckoning me to look up, wonder, feel questions, soak in discoveries. This farm in Fletcher, slowly becoming home, growing, settling, being here. They sing of summer, of nighttime, of heaven's mysteries and my sweet familiar. They fill my world with a comfort that tells me, you are here, and we are with you, and the world loves to cherish you, and for you to cherish her. And this is the final poem for tonight, and I just want to thank you all so much for your gentle presence, for your love and support, for the beautiful gift of a true sabbatical that I could have never imagined would be as enchanting as it was. It was a healing time, and I will never forget it, and I will forever be grateful. This is called Me and the Moon. 2 owls fill the atmosphere, haunting, undaunting. I am here, you are there, chanting, repeating, pausing, reprising. Nimbus, cumulus, stratus, dancing, traipsing across the heavens, conceal and reveal full moon's glow. I know she is there in her splendor. I watch helpless, hopeful for the parade of clouds to unveil her to me, longing, willing, yearning for unfiltered gleam, radiating, beaming, caressing me again. I see her now. I feel her bathing me in life force, sourcing, coursing through me, the rush of planetary life. Tears profess my love, my delight, my body's insight, that this moon is mothering, sistering, companioning me through my sojourn of sentience. She is a reason to love this world. She is the turning of time, the magnetic marriage of gravity, a bond consecrated in tides, borning cries, flocks gliding, skimming, swimming through air, premonitions fed by lunar muse. Thick nights become Elysian enchantment, holy gossamer, adorned, shorn, burnished in brilliance, communion of shadow and light. Thank you all, and good night. There's a lot of yummy food. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And there's a lot of food and drink, so please feel free to stick around for a little bit longer if you'd like. And I'm really grateful again for you, Elizabeth. Let's give Elizabeth our thanks again. And thank you, GCPC family.